For details on this topic, please see my Max Serious previous videos titled Dopamine gives human social edge over apes. COMT met unique to humans and most common in Europeans, cousin marriage conundrum by Steve Saylor and high prevalence of MAOA2R violence allele in Mideast, potential link between low activity MAOA and COMT allele prevalence and patrilineal fraternal syndrome, and Dr. Helen Fisher's 4 hormone personality types. In Europe, including Western Russia, and in the Anglosphere countries, United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, low-activity MAOA is less common. Only about 35% of those populations carry it, which means they, on average, have lower serotonin levels. Low-activity COMT is common in European and Anglosphere countries and populations at over 50%, which means those populations have, on average, higher dopamine levels. In Asia, including the Middle East and India, low-activity MAOA is common. Over 50% of those populations carry it, which means they, on average, have higher serotonin levels. Low-activity COMT is less common in East Asian and Southwest Asian countries and populations at under 30%, which means those populations have, on average, lower dopamine levels. In Africa, like in East and Southwest Asia, low-activity MAOA is common. Over 50% of those populations carry it, which means they, on average, have higher serotonin levels. Low-activity COMT is also less common in African countries and populations at under 30%, which means those populations have, on average, lower dopamine levels. In Central and South American countries, low-activity MAOA is less common. Like in European and Anglosphere countries, only about 35% of Central and South American populations carry it, which means they, on average, have lower serotonin levels. Low-activity COMT is less common in Central and South American countries and populations than in European and Anglosphere countries and populations, but more common than in East and Southwest Asia and Africa, at under 40%, which means those populations have, on average, lower dopamine levels. What this countries and continents comparison shows is that Valerie M. Hudson's and Rose McDermott's patrilineality fraternity syndrome appears to be most prevalent and persistent in higher serotonin and lower dopamine cultures in countries, e.g. East and Southwest Asia and most of Africa, which is also consistent with Dr. Helen Fisher's research that found that higher serotonin peoples and cultures tend to be more authoritarian, whereas higher dopamine peoples and cultures, e.g. Europe and the Anglosphere, have more libertarian tendencies and would thus, naturally and biologically, show less inclination or even opposition towards the patrilineality fraternity system and syndrome. Central and South America seem to be a mixture in this regard with low serotonin and relatively low dopamine levels in their populations, which makes those regions less authoritarian than East and Southwest Asian and African peoples and countries, but also less libertarian than, especially, Northwestern European and Anglosphere peoples and countries. Predictably, the patrilineality fraternity syndrome is present in Central and South America, but somewhat mitigated.